Hi, and welcome to another episode of pianoTV. So today for Halloween week, we are going to talk about a very dissonant and dark and ominous chord, the diminished chord, and also more importantly, the diminished seventh chord. So first of all, let's look at how to build a diminished triad. So triad just means three, so a diminished three-note chord is all that means. So a major triad is the first, third, and the fifth note. So for an example, let's just do C, E, and G, because the key of C has no sharps and flats, so those are all just natural notes. C minor, 1, lowered 3, 5, so C, E flat, and G. I don't know why I had to have an accent there. And then the diminished triad would be basically the same thing. Oop, that's supposed to be a C. So C, E flat, and G flat. There, I did it again. The flat instead of flat. Oh boy. Here's what that C diminished triad sounds like on the keyboard. It's very dark, hey? So now let's look at how to build them. So to figure out a diminished triad, you just pick a note to start on. So I'm just, for an example, I'm going to start on F here. And then all you have to do is hop up 3 semitones to the next note, 1, 2, 3. And then hop up 3 more semitones to the final note, 1, 2, 3. So in these 3 notes, there's another diminished triad. So I'll do another example. I'm just going to pick A, hop up 3 semitones, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And there's a diminished triad starting on A. So it doesn't matter where you start. You can build diminished thirds and triads by just building on groups of 3 semitones. So just a quick note on what the diminished chord might be notated as in your music. So if you're reading lead sheets or if you're printing chords off the internet, it might be as simple as something that says C dim, short for diminished, obviously. Or it might say C minor -5, which is basically like saying C minor chord with a flat 5, and it also might be notated as this, which is saying the exact same thing to indicate that it's a minor chord with a lowered 5th. Now the diminished triad is all well and good, but you're much more likely to come across its larger version, the diminished 7th. So the diminished 7th is exactly the same as the diminished triad, you just add a 7th on top of it. So if a diminished triad is 1, lowered 3, lowered 5, all you gotta do is add the 7th, but it's not gonna be a 7th in its natural incarnation. It's actually going to look like this. Yes, that is a double flatted 7th. So figuring out a double flat is maybe easier than it looks because it's exactly what it seems like you should do. If you have, say for example, an A double flat, you just go down instead of 1 semitone, you go down 2 semitones. So A double flat is actually a G. So yeah, I know it seems silly, but that's the gist of how the formula, if you will. So let's figure out a C diminished 7th chord. So we're going to start just like we did with the C diminished triad. We have C, lowered E, and lowered G. Now, the 7th note would be B, and then we've got to double flat it, which is crazy, I know. So that's like saying an A. It's pretty much the exact same thing. So you can think of it as C, E flat, G flat, and A, and that's a C diminished 7th chord. Now, here's what the C diminished 7th chord sounds like on the keyboard. No, it's still very dark. That 7th note just makes it even more rich and more intense. So to figure out any diminished 7th chord, it's super easy. So you go to your original diminished triad, which is built on groups of 3 semitones like we talked about. So C to E flat is 3 semitones, E flat to G flat is 3 semitones. So to figure out the 7th note, you just have to go up 3 more semitones. 1, 2, 3, that lands us on A. Or, as it would technically be notated, B double flat. Yeah, that's a thing. So we can do just any random letter. Same idea. So I'm going to pick a G. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And there's another diminished 7th starting on G. One thing that you might notice is that there's actually only 3 different configurations of diminished 7th chords. So I'll show you what I mean here. So if I play a diminished 7th on C, C, E flat, G flat, A are my notes. Now, if I go play a diminished 7th chord on E flat, it's the same 4 notes, except now instead of C being on the bottom, it's on the top. So it's kind of just like an inversion. So basically, there's only 3 different configurations. So I could start on C, I could start on D flat, and I can start on D. And those are 3 different versions. And then this is the exact same thing as this, just rearranged, inverted. And this is the exact same thing as this, it rearranged, and so on. So there's really only 3 different types of diminished 7th chords. So you might see diminished 7th chords notated in a couple different ways. So here's one way. Simple, C dim 7 for diminished 7. Another really common way to see a diminished 7th note notated is with this like little circle, and that symbol's diminished. So it's just as likely you'll come across either version, especially in classical music or jazz music. So we're going to look at a couple examples of how a diminished 7th chord sounds like in the context of a song. So this is our first example. This is from Bach's Well-Tempered Clavier, Volume 1, and it's the first prelude in C major. So it's near the beginning. These are just the bar numbers, so we'll be referring to that. So I'm going to show you 2 spots here. So one on, this is bar 12, and then another one on bar 14. And both of these bars make use of a diminished 7th chord. So you can kind of see G, B flat, C sharp, and E. Those are the 4 notes you can kind of see right at the beginning there that are repeated and repeated. And that's a diminished 7th chord. So you'll see another one in this 14th bar. So I'm going to play the audio so you can hear what that chord sounds like in the context of a greater whole. And now I've got a little snippet of Beethoven's Appassionata Sonata from the final bars of the 2nd movement Andante. So it's going along all well and good, diminuendo, and then we've got this like very dark, disturbing ending. Kind of like Beethoven himself. He's a dark and disturbed guy. Anyway, so let's take a listen to what that sounds like and what effect that has on the song. So hopefully you feel armed and ready to deal with any diminished chord that happens to come your way, which is good because in the next video we are also going to be talking about diminished chords, but in the context of a song, and it's a very well-known creepy song, so hopefully you enjoy it when we get to it. Thank you for watching, and as always you can visit pianotv.net for updates and subscribe. Toodaloo! So there's really only 3 different types of diminished 7th chords.